Sam never thought that his pursuit of justice would lead to the complete destruction of his life. When the school administration offered to reinstate him after a public scandal, he refused. But what shocked everyone was that his closest colleagues, those who had pretended to support him, suddenly turned against him, claiming he had betrayed them for his own benefit. Their slander didn't just ruin his career, it took away everything he loved. And what Sam did in response shocked even those closest to him. But let's start with how it all began. Sam sat at his desk in the classroom, staring at the familiar walls where the voices of his students once echoed. The noise from the school corridor outside seemed to slowly drown out his own thoughts. For the past few days, he had been suppressing the anger and bitterness that filled his heart. When he learned about his dismissal, the school administration, whom he had worked with for years, decided to respond to the parents' complaints, which led to his expulsion. Their complaints lacked logic and facts, based on racist assumptions and prejudice. These parents didn't consider him worthy of teaching their children, not because of his skills or experience, but solely because of the color of his skin. How is this possible? Sam kept asking himself, trying to comprehend the situation. He tried to recall any instance where he might have set a bad example or made a mistake, but all that surfaced in his memory were the praises from his students, their eagerness to learn and their gratitude for his support. Sam had always felt that his place was here in the school, where he could not only teach but also shape the future of children, helping them understand the importance of justice and equality. But now that mission seemed almost lost to him. Being fired without an explanation and without the chance to defend himself had become a personal tragedy. Why didn't they even give me a chance to explain? Sam kept turning this question over in his mind, feeling his confidence slowly crumble under the weight of injustice. That evening, Sam sat in his small apartment, his thoughts deep in reflection. His colleagues called, expressing support and outrage over what had happened, but most of them were cautious in their words. No one wanted to openly oppose the school administration. Their fears were understandable. They were afraid of losing their jobs or facing the same racist treatment. This fear was corroding the system from within. Sam tried to figure out what to do. On the one hand, he felt a great sense of hurt and the desire to simply walk away, to leave it all behind. But on the other hand, his inner voice insisted that he couldn't give up so easily. His emotions swayed between anger and disappointment. Staying idle seemed easier, but every time he pictured those parents and the school administration continuing to live their lives, believing that racism could go unpunished, a new feeling awakened in him, a sense of responsibility. He couldn't allow this to become the norm. He couldn't accept the thought that his dismissal would set an example for others, forcing other black teachers to remain silent and tolerate injustice. This isn't just about me, Sam thought. This was more than a personal grievance. It was a battle for the rights and respect of everyone who faces such discrimination. But did he have the strength? Did he have the courage? Doubts gnawed at him from within. Sam understood that fighting the system might be much harder than he had anticipated. Maybe I should just let it go, he thought, feeling the mounting pressure. However, deep in his heart, he already knew the answer. He had to fight. The next day, Sam got out of bed with a firm resolve that it was time to act. His decision had matured like a fruit after months of struggle. He could no longer afford to be a victim of injustice. He called a lawyer and scheduled a meeting. Inside, a storm of emotions raged, from fear to determination, but now his fear was no longer paralyzing. It had become the engine driving him forward. Sam arrived at the lawyer's office and, sitting in the small room, he recounted what had happened. I was fired without explanation, only because parents expressed dissatisfaction. They believe I'm unfit for this job because of my skin color, he said, his voice trembling but with a firmness in it. The lawyer listened carefully, frowning. We'll file a complaint, he said firmly, and demand justice. We'll make them reconsider their decision. These words gave Sam strength. For the first time in days, he felt that he was not alone in this fight, that there were people ready to support him and fight alongside him. The decision had been made. He wouldn't retreat. He wouldn't allow his story to become another example of unpunished injustice. Sam left the lawyer's office, taking a deep breath of fresh air. This battle was only beginning, and a difficult road lay ahead, but he was ready now. This was no longer just his fight, it was the fight of everyone facing discrimination. He felt that this battle could become a step toward something bigger, toward changes that would impact society as a whole. His heart was filled with determination, and he knew justice would prevail. Sam sat at his desk, surrounded by letters. Each piece of paper was more than just text. It contained the support, gratitude, and appreciation of students and parents. But despite this, he found it hard to breathe, as if something was pressing down on his chest. He opened another letter, written by one of his students, David. Mr. Brown, you always believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. I'll never forget how you supported me during the exam when I thought I would fail. You're the best teacher I've ever known. Please come back. These words warmed Sam's heart, but the anxiety wouldn't let go. He understood that this support was his only weapon against the system, against those who sought to destroy his career and reputation. These aren't just letters, Sam thought. They're proof that I'm not just a teacher, but a person making a real difference. But another thought kept nagging at him. Is this enough? He knew that the parents behind his dismissal wouldn't stop. They saw him as a threat to their privileged world, and fighting him was their way of preserving that world. The school administration, cowardly and spineless, quickly caved to their pressure. Sam felt his faith in justice wavering. Can I win? He asked himself, staring at the growing pile of letters on his desk. Each day, the tension at the school grew. Sam could feel it even from a distance. Colleagues who once expressed support became increasingly cautious in their statements. Many avoided discussing his dismissal, as if they feared being dragged into the scandal. While a few still sincerely supported him, the eyes of most showed concern for their own careers. One day, while walking through the schoolyard, he ran into one of his colleagues, Michael, with whom he had once had a good relationship. But now when Michael saw Sam, he tensed up and reluctantly stopping said, "Sam, I can't talk much right now. You understand, we all have families, and we can't take risks." These words felt like a stab in the back. "I understand," Sam replied quietly, but inside, he was overwhelmed with a sense of loneliness. He realized that it wasn't just the system fighting against him. In the face of fear and the potential consequences that loomed, he stepped closer to Michael. "But don't we all want to live in a just world?" Michael looked away, his voice tinged with resignation. "Sometimes, the world isn't how we want it to be, Sam. I'm sorry." The words hung between them like a heavy sentence. Is everyone really willing to close their eyes to injustice just for the sake of their own peace? Sam thought. In that moment, he realized his enemy was not just racism, but also the silent complicity of the majority. Rumors spread swiftly through the school. Parents, dissatisfied with his presence, intensified their pressure on the administration, spreading false information about Sam, alleging that he was neglecting his duties. "They're willing to destroy my reputation just to get rid of me," he mused, feeling the internal tug-of-war between his desire to leave and his duty to continue this fight. After another day full of doubts and disappointments, Sam returned home, opened his laptop, and recalled how the world changes because of those unafraid to speak up. His situation wasn't new. Many before him had faced similar trials and prevailed. But to win, he needed to go beyond the school's walls, beyond the silence. He typed a few lines, and his story began to take shape on social media. "I'm a teacher who was fired because of the color of my skin. 4 years of effort, my love for my profession and my students, I was repaid with racism and slander. I want the world to know the truth." Within hours, his post gained traction. People from across the country, many of whom he had never met, started commenting. Some expressed support, others shared their own stories of injustice. "We stand with you, Sam. Your story is our collective struggle." By morning, Sam received emails from journalists interested in his case. He realized this was a turning point. Many people had rallied behind his campaign, and now, his voice had been heard. He felt the support of so many others, and it strengthened him. "This is not just my fight," he thought, feeling a profound sense of purpose. Sam understood that no matter how difficult this battle might become, his voice had become a symbol of the fight for justice, and he was ready to see it through. This moment was proof that the truth, if spoken without fear, always resonates. He felt transformed, more confident, stronger. No matter what came next, he knew that justice could prevail if one fought for it. Sam sat in his living room, surrounded by newspaper clippings and open news tabs on his laptop. His story had spread widely, and each day brought new articles and reports on his unjust firing. But with the attention came an overwhelming sense of responsibility. On one hand, he felt the support of those standing against discrimination. On the other, doubts loomed larger with each passing day. What if all of this is pointless? He wondered, scrolling through comments under yet another article. Some messages warmed his soul, but among them were words of hate, threats, and insults. Sam tried to ignore them, but every hateful comment left a scar. "You're undermining order," One letter read, "You're hurting the school that once respected you." He knew these words weren't true, yet their tone pierced through his emotional defenses. Journalists who interviewed him sympathized with his cause, but at times their questions carried an edge of doubt. "Why bring this up now?" they would ask. "Won't this hurt the students?" These questions forced Sam to wonder again and again whether he had gone too far. However, whenever doubt crept in, he remembered letters from his students, parents, and colleagues. He remembered moments when his students thanked him for his guidance and support. "This isn't just a fight for me," he reassured himself. "It's a fight for justice, for everyone who faces discrimination." Still, the weight of it all pressed heavily on his shoulders. One day, when a new wave of slander erupted in the school, Sam felt the pressure becoming almost unbearable. The administration, trying to deflect public criticism, began accusing him of damaging the school's reputation. Newspapers published articles painting him as a troublemaker, a disruptor of discipline. "They're shifting all the blame onto me," Sam thought bitterly as he read yet another article. First, they had yielded to racist pressure, and now, they were making him the school's enemy. Threats began arriving not only on his social media accounts, but also in the mail. One day, someone left a note on his doorstep reading, "You don't deserve to be a teacher. Get out." Sam held the note, feeling the weight of its malice, but he chose not to show it to his family, not wanting to worry them. Still, this hatred was starting to affect not only him but also his family. His wife, Liz, became withdrawn, her face etched with concern. "Maybe it's time to stop," she whispered one evening as Sam sat reading another article. "I'm worried about you. We're all worried." Sam fell silent. He looked at her, seeing the fear in her eyes, for him, for their future. It was painful. He didn't want to put his family at risk, but giving up now would mean betraying not only himself but also everyone who believed in his fight. "I can't, Liz," he finally replied, summoning his inner strength. "If I stop now, it means they've won. I'm doing this for more than just myself. I can't let everyone who supports me down." Liz looked at him, her face tense with worry, but she nodded, understanding he would not give up. Yet, the tension between them continued to grow, and Sam felt it tearing him apart from within. Despite the challenges, Sam was determined not to back down. He knew the road ahead would only get harder, but his resolve had grown stronger. He decided to organize a rally in front of the school board, not just to demand justice for himself, but to highlight the broader issue of discrimination in education. The rally would be his response to the threats and pressure. On the day of the rally, Sam stood before a large crowd, microphone in hand, ready to deliver his speech. The crowd was larger than he had anticipated. Among them were friends, family, students, and others who had once been hesitant to support him openly. People held signs reading, "No to Racism and Justice for All Teachers." As he looked into their faces, he felt his struggle take on a new significance. He took a deep breath, understanding the gravity of the moment. A wave of anxiety washed over him, but then his eyes met Liz's in the crowd, standing there in solidarity. He knew he wasn't alone in this fight. "We are gathered here today because the education system should be fair for everyone," he began. "My dismissal wasn't just a mistake. It was a result of the discrimination that many teachers and students face." His voice was steady, though inside, the battle raged on. Could he truly make a difference? The crowd listened intently, and with each word, the tension grew. He knew that every sentence challenged a system accustomed to silence and quiet compliance. When his speech ended, people began chanting his name. Sam looked at them, and the doubt that had plagued him for weeks finally began to fade. He realized that his voice had been heard. In that moment, he understood that truth and justice could prevail if you fought for them until the end. Sam sat in a stuffy room, the half-empty hall of the school board enveloped in silence. He felt the tension slowly creeping through his body. Time seemed to drag unbearably, and each minute waiting for the board's decision felt like the toughest trial yet. In his hands was a copy of the legal petition his lawyers had filed in support of his case, but even this legal victory didn't bring him any comfort. What would happen next? The question echoed in his mind like a drum, giving him no peace. In recent days, he had felt that public opinion was on his side, but deep down, fear still lingered. Not fear of losing his case, but fear that the system would remain unchanged. Sam knew that even if he won personal justice, thousands of other teachers and students would continue to suffer from racism and discrimination. He recalled the days when he first became a teacher. His main desire had been to help students unlock their potential, to teach them to think critically and act justly. Now, however, he faced a different task, defending the very idea of equality in education. But this path was much more difficult than he had ever imagined. When the board chair finally spoke, Sam felt his heart race. The moment of decision had come. Public pressure had been strong, and all he could do now was hope that justice would prevail. The public hearings had lasted all week. Every day, Sam walked into the room with a heavy heart, knowing that this time everything depended not just on his words, but on the support of his lawyers and the people standing behind him. The parents who had filed the complaints tried to maintain their stance, pretending that their motivations were solely in the interest of their children, but their racist remarks could no longer be disguised under the guise of concern for education. Sam sat next to his lawyer, listening carefully as he presented evidence that the dismissal had been unfair and driven by racist bias. Every point the lawyer made was clear and strong, but Sam could see that the board members were trying to keep neutral expressions despite the administration's obvious mistakes. Sam felt the pressure not just from his own case, but from the entire educational system that had always been stacked against people like him. His thoughts kept returning to how difficult it had been to be a black teacher in a predominantly white district. They saw me as a threat from day one, Sam thought. He remembered how parents had never hesitated to express their dissatisfaction with his methods, not because he was a bad teacher, but because he was different. After one of the hearings, a colleague, an older teacher named George, approached him. He looked Sam in the eyes and said, "You're holding up well. We all know this isn't right, and if you can change this, it'll be a step for all of us." These words warmed Sam's heart. It was comforting to know that among his colleagues, there were those who believed in him. But at the same time, he understood that this battle wasn't just about his career, it was a fight for everyone who faced injustice. On the final day of the hearings, the decision was announced. Reluctantly, the administration acknowledged their errors. The board offered Sam his job back, apologizing for the unjust firing. But as those words were spoken, Sam realized that it wasn't what he wanted anymore. He took a deep breath, feeling a resolution grow within him. "I'm not coming back," he said quietly but confidently. His lawyer looked at him in surprise, and a murmur rippled through the room. This was unexpected. Returning to his position would have been the logical conclusion to the story, but Sam had come to understand that he no longer wanted to work within a system that remained unchanged. Later, as the crowd began to disperse, reporters approached him. Sam looked into the cameras, and inside him, there was no fear, only resolve. "This isn't just my victory," he said. "It's a small step toward ensuring that every teacher, every student feels protected from discrimination. I intend to keep fighting for change in the system. This is bigger than just my case. It's a fight for all of us." Sam realized that his place was no longer in the classroom, but on the front lines of the battle for equality in education. Instead of returning to the school, he accepted an offer from a civil rights organization fighting racial discrimination. His goal was clear: to change the system, not just exist within it.